All right. Okay. What were your early years like?
Okay. Well, I'm only 25, so I'm kind of in my early years. But my early years, I was very interested in art, and my mom is a teacher, and my dad did photography kind of in college and as a side project, and he owns his own business as well. So my early years were pretty creative, and I was encouraged to, pursue my interests in art, and I took my dad's camera and would always play around and take pictures, and that kind of grew into me just being interested in photography in general. So I'd say that like my family really was supportive in helping foster any sort of creative ambitions I had. So I was always, doing crafts and drawing and painting and listening to music and stuff like that.
When you went to college, did you have any idea what you wanted to do for a living or career?
No, and I still don't. I don't think anyone knows. But I definitely, in high school, knew I wanted to start pursuing art in a way that would be a career. I just didn't know what that would be. And so my art teacher in high school had told me that you could major in photography at LSU, and that blew my mind. I did not know that was like something that you could do. So I knew going into college I wanted to do photography, but like everyone going into college, you're always like, well, I can always change my major or whatever. And I never actually ended up, faltering with that. I pretty much stayed on that path. I mean, not pretty much, I did, but I didn't, as soon as I hit college, I was like, this is what I want to do. I just didn't know how I would want to manifest that in the real world after graduation.
Okay. You were on the executive council 2 years while you were in your sorority, 1 year as academics chair and 1 year as house manager. How did those roles shape you?
I definitely think it helped prepare me for any sort of management roles that I would need in life. It was really hard because it was really hard because in college, in your sorority, you're friends with everybody. But then when you're put into a management position, you are also having to play, like boss a little bit. And it's very hard to walk that line of being friends with people and then also having like some sort of leadership, not even just leadership, but like having to like set standards and make sure people, meet these guidelines that you set in place. And I think that helped shape me for like the real world in general, where like there's a time for business and there's a time for play, and it's really hard to toe the line. It's not something I'm very good at, I would say, but I definitely think being on the executive council in Zeta was helpful for learning those real world scenarios and delegating and such.
What influences your current work?
I am very drawn to older time periods. I'm nostalgic for time periods that I wasn't alive for, specifically the 60s and 70s and some of the 90s. I kind of skipped the 80s. It's an entire generation. I'm not a fan. But I think a lot of movies and pop culture and old photographs from those time periods really influence how I want to do my current work, whether it goes, manifests itself in the way I edit or what I'm drawn to. Style-wise, and I also think music influences me because I love to shoot music and I love to listen to music. It puts me in certain moods, and then depending on the artist I'm shooting, listening to their music while I'm editing photos of them is always kind of a big influence on how I choose to make it look and how I'm feeling when I'm making it. So those are probably the most or the biggest influences, I would say, for my work.
Okay. So something that I often see on your Instagram, it's kind of your brand recently, is do what you want. What does do what you want mean to you?
I was at a creative conference 2 years ago, and we were told to figure out what our battle cry for our business would be. And I was struggling with my brand at the time and not quite knowing what I wanted to do, because I was photographing metal concerts as well as babies, as well as, family portraits, and I just kind of wanted to do everything. And my friend was like, well then, what's your battle cry? And I was just like, I don't know, I just do what I want. And then they were like, well, that's your battle cry. Like, that can be like the staple of your business. That can be what your brand is built on. And that's okay. You don't have to like pigeonhole yourself to be like someone else. Like, you can do what you want, and that'll be like your brand. So I was like, I kind of like that. So I started making stickers and t-shirts and hats and started just saying it, and it became like a little sub-brand of my photography. But to me, it really just means like do what you want creatively, because I would get so stuck in like, oh, I can't post this picture of this hardcore concert because all of my sorority sisters are going to unfollow me. And then I'd post a picture of like a fashion blogger, and then I'm like, well, all these metalheads are going to unfollow me. And it's just, I was so stuck in like, what should I be sharing? I don't know what I want to do. And then I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want because that's me. So it's been a long process, but trying to find the right audience that identifies with like what I do has been really rewarding, because I truly am just kind of doing what I want for the most part every day.
Recently, I've noticed you're far more involved in the Baton Rouge community, working with Power Pump Girls, LSU Alumni Association, etc. How would you say these partnerships have influenced your management leadership style? What have you learned?
I think it's helped influence the community aspect of what I do, because I'm like a solopreneur. I like to network with people because I'm not in a traditional office space. So I think also just getting involved in the community in any way I can, because when I graduated from LSU, a lot of my friends moved away because LSU doesn't have a super high retention rate for people staying in Baton Rouge. A lot of people come here for college, they do their 4 years and then they leave. And I was one of the few people who I feel like stayed, and so a lot of my friends are gone. And so just kind of trying to find outlets in the community to where I can make new friends or business acquaintances, or, you know, get inspired. And so working with people like the Power Pump Girls or the LSU Alumni Association or the Zeta chapter now has really helped me like kind of get out of myself, just get outside of myself and like, you know, make new connections in the industry.
Okay. How would you describe your management style?
I'm struggling with learning how to delegate. I like to just take everything on myself. I'm really bad at asking for help. So my management style would be that I'm very in my own head, and so I have to kind of step outside of that and remember that there are things I can hire other people for, or that I can put off for later, and I don't have to do it all at once. So I'd say my management style is very, I don't want to say selfish, that's not like a upbeat word, but like it's self-centered, and so I'm like learning how to like release like my tentacles and do things with others. So
and you mentioned hiring. How do you hire?
If I were going to be looking for someone who would want to work for me, I would want to make sure that they were on the same page with me in terms of standards of like quality of content, of what gets put out there with my name on it. Because my business is Jordan Hefler Photography, I wouldn't want some crap going out there with my name on it or something. If it was crap but I approved it, that'd be different. I would want it to have a certain standard in quality, so I would be looking for that in someone. I'd want them to be fun. I wouldn't want them to take things too seriously, and they'd need to be able to hang out with me, which might be hard.
Okay, and last question. What career and life advice do you have for recent college grads?
I'd like to say do what you want here, but sometimes that's not always feasible right when you graduate. So work towards what you want is what I would say. Don't care so much about what other people are thinking, because they're probably not even thinking about you. Especially if you're a creative person, like you're put on this earth to do your thing. So stop trying to look at everybody else's work and do what they're doing. And I felt like I struggled with that for a little bit, and I only started gaining momentum once I broke out of that and was like, I'm doing me. So that'd be really big advice. And also just don't take college as a time to just like work so hard by yourself and like push through and, you know, not do anything. Like I would say college was my number one time for networking. Like so much of what I do now has stemmed from people I met in college, like work related, I mean. So make sure you're still getting the social aspect out of college before you graduate, because you don't want to work so hard that you graduate and don't know anyone. You want to make those connections while you can, because it definitely gets harder as you get older to make friends and to get out there and network. So I think college is kind of like an instant thing for you, because you're around so many people right then and there, like-minded in your major. Like definitely use that to your advantage now.
Okay.